Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Arts and Wellness Cafe. I'm Amanda, so pleased to have you join me. So, how have you been? I was going to say, how have you been, young lady? I can see myself, so it's just like, oh, well, you know what? I've been okay. But how have you been? How have you been this week? Um, Sorry for not putting the video out before. Um, but that's life, isn't it? And I think you have to give yourself permission to do what you're doing, in the sense that what do I mean by that? Like, you go easy on yourself. Like, I was gonna get wound up for not having done the video yesterday, but I was just so I felt really weird, and it was because of the things that I had eaten. I hadn't eaten a healthy um, a healthy meal yesterday, and I physically felt unwell, and it was just like, what I was gonna say, when, but it was almost like a sugar rush with a downer and then a sugar rush, and then it was just like, I just felt it was the downer bit, and all I'd had was pasta and cheese, and it's not, I haven't eaten cheese for quite a long time, um, so I had an effect. If you wanted to know what I ate. Anyway, so the word that we're going to kind of just skirt around, because we've covered it on Monday for Creating in Faith. So I talk about the word ambition and ask, well, what do you feel when you think about that word? And I think when you're younger, it's used a lot, in the, you've got to have ambition, and um, I don't think you're sat down. I don't remember my parents ever sitting down and saying, well, this is what it means, and this is what, in terms of having a goal, having drive, having ambition, having a plan, or working towards a plan. I don't remember ever talking about that. But then I guess, back in my day, your parents were working really hard, um, and they thought the school was giving you direction and also, advice. Where I've mentioned before in episodes that, you know, we had a careers teacher. I don't even think that the advice that they gave was very limited, and not, they didn't do their job basically in terms of sharing what is available, the kind of steps you need, what kind of grades you need. And I guess for some people, depending on the background you come from, you know, that might have been discussed in the home, but for us it wasn't, and our parents did the best that they could do, and yeah. So anyway, ambition. What does it mean for you in your creative? This thing keeps slipping down. It's my little shell. It's a shell, the top of a shell, made into a necklace. I didn't make it. I've had this for years, um, but what it made me think of, what this idea of ambition made me think of, was when I used to work for a place called the Design Council, and I worked in the education department, and one of my briefs was to connect with companies involved in design. So we had architects, we had designers, we had whatever, and I would get them to come in and give a presentation. So we may have had, it was usually just one company, I think maybe once a month, and we'd connect with schools, and it was to enable the students who were in their sixth form or doing their A level, enable them to have experience of, say, an architect's firm, or what kind of thing they're looking for. So there was, I think I was two I think there was more than one organisation that I organised to have come. So anyway, that was really good because it then gave students a flavour of a field that they may not have considered. Because again, when you think of, well, what are the career advisors doing? What is in their remit, and what kind of resources are available for them to even do that themselves? I mean, that was something a school could have, organised, have organisations come in. And then the other thing that I would do, because I linked it to, what do you call it, like work experience. So these organisations, we would arrange work experience, and then I would devise a kind of plan so that the student knew exactly what they were going into, and they weren't just doing the rubbish jobs. I mean, obviously, there's a limit to what, a student who's coming in for, say, a 2-week period can do. So, kind of speaking to the organisations so that they actually had a proper plan in place for the student, and maybe to shadow people and look at specific things. They wouldn't necessarily be lead on, making decisions, but they could be involved in the room when decisions are being made. If there's a meeting on a particular product design, or when the designers got together. So really enabling the student to get as much as they can out of their work experience, but then also having this careers session where the organisations will come in, and that was really good. And you learnt a lot. I mean, even for me, it was just like, I really enjoyed that, connecting, the organisations and connecting the students, but also that which is a complaint for a lot of students. They just got me doing photocopying, and not really talking about things, not really explaining anything, not really looking at the way that the organisation is made up. That, well, this is one office of many offices or departments or whatever. So that's something that I enjoyed, and you could then see the impact that you would make on a student. You opened up their horizons, because suddenly, where they may have only thought of a bank, being a secretary, working as a teacher or a nurse, it was like, oh, architect, designer, product designer. So different areas of work that they could now look at. So the word, when I think about that, in terms of my creative walk, I think that I have had ambition in my creative walk. And when I think of what I'm doing now, so teaching and sharing my work, and I'm constantly learning, because that's, for me, that's really important. And it may not be something that I use, say, in my creative field, but you're always keeping your mind stimulated, because you never know what you learn, it might have an impact on what you do. So I was saying to somebody, one of the challenges that I'm doing now is 100 days of embroidery, and I'm learning. I've got the thing here now. I'm learning 100 new embroidery stitches. I've had this, I think it might be backwards when you see it. I've had this book for years, and I was looking in it, and it says copyright 1967. Obviously, I didn't have it from then, but I brought it. I might have brought it when I brought my first sewing machine, which was it in the 80s? I don't think so. I think it was in the 90s that I brought my first sewing machine. But anyway, I picked this up, and I've had it for years, but never looked in it. I looked in it and thought, oh, and some of these, I mean, just look at some of the stitches, are really quite challenging, and you really have to, some of the more complicated ones that I've never seen before, you really have to look carefully to see how, okay, insert an A and then go into B and then C and then D and come back, scoop back with to E. You really have to look carefully at the instructions and not try to be perfect first time, because I think that's when I did my first one, and you can see on Instagram when I did the first one, it was just like, but this doesn't look like all those embroiderers that you see on their Instagram feed. This just looks like a beginner. And it was just like, but you are a beginner, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're learning. So, that's what this is about. It's not, like trying to, 100 embroidery stitches and you're suddenly, filling these hoops with the fabric, filling it with lots of intricate designs. It's you just starting out. So just enjoy it. Just enjoy the learning, the steps. And I think I was doing one yesterday, because I'm doing them every day, but sharing every 3 days, because it's just it just fits. I can't share the stitching bit every day, but every 3 days works for me. I feel more comfortable with that. But yeah, I'm just enjoying it. And it was like yesterday, I thought, oh, do you know what? I was doing a stitch and I thought, oh, do you know what? This would be really nice in one of my stitch projects. So already I'm seeing ones that I really want to use again. There are many that I'm not going to use that I think there are some so there's some buttonhole stitches and a few other stitches that I think that I'm not going to use. So just enjoying the process, and not judging myself, not saying, you haven't done. There's a few that I haven't done straight, and I just think, oh, but there's some stitches that I got bored with. So but also the description was just like, it was really difficult to really get. And then sometimes what I have to do is almost like not be so anxious at trying to work out where this needle is supposed to go on this cloth to get that stitch, to get it to look like that. But once you've got it, it's like a really great feeling. So I'm really looking forward to using quite a few of the stitches. Some of the kind of more decorative and involved ones are doesn't necessarily fit in with the work that I'm doing. And that's the other thing, that it's related to, or it can impact on the work that I'm doing. I'm hoping to use these stitches in my stitch projects. So, so just getting on with it like that. Necklace came on. It's like, it's the camera moved. Yeah, it has. So that's the word. So so here's one. I think it's probably the first one that I did, stitch project. And I'm again quite pleased I decided to do them on that size, because I was thinking, I don't just want to have these patches laying around, and maybe I'll do a wall hanging out of it. But one of the other things I was thinking was maybe do a stitch book, so then I can go in it and I can see the stitches, and find a pen, or that I can label the stitches on the cloth itself. But maybe a book where, whenever I want to look at the stitch that I did and how I did it in real life, rather than just looking at the book, the description from the book, then it might be easy to, because you're having to read that and think, okay, so, but it's fine. As I said, I'm enjoying it. What else has happened? So I've been doing the teaching online, and if you joined the what is it? Loving, Healing and Creating Summit. My video was on the 4th day. So I talked to Larissa there was just a few questions, and then I went into my lesson. So if you've been able to catch that, it was free up until the 14th of February. You're able to play the videos, but after that, I think if you play it on the day, you can play it like a couple of times on the day. So I'm not sure whether mine's still up there now, but yeah, check it out. The links will be in the description, and yeah, really, I think generally looking kind of like overall, really kind of tapping into how it is or where it is you are now in your creative walk. I'm feeling a little bit tired. I was just looking at my eyes. My eyes look like, do you need a nap, girl? Do you need a power nap? but yeah, I've been getting on with the work, and I made a arbor. I made a bentwood arbor, and I just had the best time. I spent a couple of hours making it. I'd cut the wood from the garden. Have I got it? Ooh, I've got it here. Let me just. Sorry about this. Oh, sorry, Cole. Oh, get up. Oh, I'm not sure. You're not going to be able to see all of it, but you'll be able to see some of it. You're going to have to move. There we go. There we go. Look at this. I made it. And I've used burlap to tie the joints together. What I'm going to next do is get my glue gun and just make sure that these are secure there. I'm not sure what I was going to kind of do this with this bit. I was going to do something. It's not long enough, so I'll probably just cut it. But I like the where it joins up there, and it's I didn't measure where I was going to do it for. I just wanted to make it. So I'd cut the wood, and I didn't want it to go to waste. So the tree that I cut them from, the branches, what happens is you have the main branches, and then you get these small kind of like aerial, whether you call them aerial branches, I'm not sure. But they're thin like this, and they grow, they grow up because they're trying to get to the light. And so they grow really long. And what I was using them for was, here's a couple I dried earlier. So what I was using these for was, if they're straight like this, you can use it as a wall hanging, to hang wall hangings. So for the smaller pieces, like I would cut, say here, and this would be, for a wall hanging that fits there. Where it gets thin, obviously, I might need a smaller fabric. But the branches were actually quite straight, the way they grow, and I had left it I hadn't been cutting back, because it's also where Cole there's a bit where he can jump over. But I hadn't cut it back, and I'd left them, so they'd grown really tall. So I had these long pieces that I was just like, oh my gosh, I've got to. And this is the first time I've made it from this particular wood. I did try and make it from, it's a tree called the lead tree, or the river tamarind tree. But the wood on those, they get eaten, like, once, I don't know what the bug is, but it lays its egg in it, and then you find the maggots like crawling around, and they do it in the tree that's actually growing, so they find a spot anyway to get in. But I was really pleased with that, and I'm going to find a spot to put in the garden, and I want to create a lot more of these, and that's the whole, it was such a joy, doing a creative project as well as being in the garden. And for the lower ones, like, I've just woven them in. They're not attached, but I wanted to maybe put a few more to close up this gap. But yeah, I'm really pleased with it. So I was doing that, the embroidery, and then just the general work. And I'm trying to get a lot of things kind of more scheduled, more to get ahead of myself, really, so that I can make time to do other things that I'd like to do. I've got a book that a story. It's a short story that I was waiting to do some illustration for, but as it turns out, the imagery in there is about textiles, and so I've got some of the pieces that I've got would fit quite well. So I was looking forward to doing some work on that. And then, yeah, as I say, all the other things that I was doing. The other thing, making sure you're dehydrated. I felt quite a few times during the week, like your throat's dry, and you think, by the time your throat's dry, you've been dehydrated for quite a while. And so you have to really address that. I was telling my sister today, she's like, yes, you have to address that, because if you're constantly dehydrated, that then could lead to additional things that you may not, symptoms and things that you may not be able to reverse. So you have to try and stay hydrated. You have to, eat good food. I've been eating a lot of papaya. We've had quite a few papayas ripen on our tree. So I've been doing that, and also looking to make some smoothies, because I was thinking, oh, they're ripe. Some of them, the smaller ones, seem to be ripening without growing as big as they would normally, like at least this. But they're like, that. And I was thinking, oh, they could be frozen. You just cut them up, freeze them, and then you just put that in the smoothie, blend it up, and you're good to go with some moringa. Sounds about right. Sounds good, doesn't it? And I normally put almond milk in there, and maybe throw in a few dates and some chia seeds, and it's just like delicious. The other thing, whilst this is not art related, it's all about health, arts and health, yeah? Arts and wellness. Pomegranates are really good. The pomegranate juice. So whilst my pomegranates are not really, really sweet, that with moringa actually tastes really nice. And so yeah, I'm thinking now with the papaya, it's going to be hitting the spots. And did I tell you about I went to the store and I brought this really deep red pomegranate and ate it. It was massive. It was imported from the States. And so I sowed the seeds, and about 50 has come up. So I'm going to find spots to put them in the garden, because I want a pomegranate patch as well. I've got a moringa patch, I've got a broadleaf thyme patch, so I want a pomegranate patch, and to just grow as many, because if I can get some that big, because my pomegranates, the biggest that I've had so far, is about the size of about that big, but this one was like that big. It was just amazing, and deep red. I love the colour's beautiful. The other thing that you can do, I found, is use the pomegranate as a dye. You boil it, and then you I don't know whether you can make an ink from it like you can with the avocado seed, but you can create a dye and dye fabric. And yeah, I've got loads of fabric that I'd love to dye. That I've just what I've done so far is add the the wax on there. So that's another thing. So there's it's a hive of industry here, and I don't always get to share, because it's just the time that the time it takes to do stuff, and there's other stuff going on that I need to share and want to share and all of this, but I'll catch up. But hey, if you want to see some behind the scenes, come and join me on Patreon, and I'll leave the link below. And for my podcasters, you didn't get to see the arbor, but yeah, if you go on the Patreon blog, I will have images of that, will I? Yeah, we'll see anyway. But yeah, join me on Patreon. You can see behind the scenes, and we've got lots of videos up there. Prices start as low as $3. I do have on the kind of just general, you can see some of the posts, but then for there are Patreon only posts that are up there. But yeah, I'd love to have you join me either way. So think about that word ambition, and think about, now think about your creativity. Now think about going forward and what it is you're doing, and think about how, a lot of thinking, and reflect on what kind of things you'd like to do. Because if you're not putting things in place, you're just staying in place. And you want to grow, you want to try new things, you want to try new techniques, you want to do so much. So you've got to give yourself the time, and you've got to be patient. Don't, think you've got to get it perfect. You don't. And don't wait for perfection. That's why, sometimes it's just, I say to myself, just press publish, because you're waiting for perfection, and then you just won't post it, because you think, oh my gosh, you could have done this, and you could have done that, and you could have said this. But yeah, so I wanted to just come in today, and I'll also probably post an art video as well. Again, I've just been, as I say, when you eat the wrong food, when you give yourself the wrong start, it can mess up the rest of the week. So I'm really just trying to now get back on track. But join me on Creative Gardener. Come and see what's going on over there. But if not, stay here and enjoy the art videos, But this is probably my bentwood arbor I'm so pleased with. I'm so pleased, as I say. I didn't make it specifically for a particular size. Now I know that I can make it, and it looks all right. And I'll see how long this particular one lasts, because I'm not necessarily going to seal it or anything. I'm just going to put it out and just see how it changes with, you've got the rain, we don't have any snow, but the sun and the rain, and, just see how it gets on. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to using it out in the garden, so you can join me for the adventures of the bentwood arbor from Creative Gardener. So I'm going to leave it there, and yeah, just want you to think about that word, think about your creativity, think about making sure you make time for yourself, doing something creative, and I will see you again soon.